What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be going over how I passed the NASM CPT exam in 2021. I'm also gonna go over my personal experiences with the exam, some study tips, and some tricks. Stay tuned. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of talk about the reason why I decided to take NASM and why I decided to take the exam, why I decided to become a personal trainer. So here's the funny thing. I was a therapist in marriage and family therapy. However, there's a few things that happened during the pandemic that made me realize I wasn't truly passionate about being an MFT. As much as I loved helping people, which I've always liked helping people, I just wasn't passionate about the career. I was always passionate about fitness, and it's been something I've been passionate about for a large part of my life. So therefore, during that time, I decided that I was gonna pursue, at whatever cost it was gonna take, I was gonna pursue fitness as a career. I was gonna figure out a way to make my passion, which is fitness, a lifelong, rewarding career. But the question is, why did I NASM out of all the accreditations? The reason I chose NASM is because after doing a little bit of research, I discovered that they are the most well-known and respected certification for personal trainers. Certain gyms will only take certain certifications, and NASM is one of those certifications that is almost always taken at whatever gym you apply to. But again, do your own research before you choose which certification you want to get. So the package I chose was, I actually chose one of the more elite packages, and that's because it came with the online virtual training course. Of course, one of the things I want to do down the line is develop a website where I can have virtual training packages and all that type of stuff. So that's the reason I chose that package. But after you do your own research, you can choose which package would best suit you. And one important thing I want to mention before you purchase your certification from NASM is that they always run a discount. I was afraid that they didn't always run a discount, but after checking the website over and over and over, I noticed that they always have a discount, and it seems like their discount is gonna disappear at some point or another, but their discounts never end. Point is, there's always a discount, so don't be afraid, and make sure you never pay full price. Now let me break it down for you, and let me go over the process for you. I'll be honest with you. This process took me about 3 whole months to complete. I read the entire book back to front, every single page. However, after passing the exam, I realized that wasn't necessary. And in my opinion, it was kind of a mistake on my part. And that's just because a lot of the information needed for the exam, you don't have to read the entire book for that. I still would recommend reading the entire book at some point, just for your own personal knowledge. But in order to get the certification, you don't need to read the entire book. And a majority of my real studying was done the month of the exam. So the exam is broken down into 120 questions. 20 of these questions do not count at all. So realistically, the exam's out of 100 questions. However, you get the 120 questions. It's a little tricky to explain. So I'll be honest, the exam was pretty difficult. Most of the difficulty of the exam was due to the way they word the exam and the way they try to trick you into not understanding material that you already understand. However, for me personally, I was also going through a bit of an emotional situation during the first time I took the exam, and because of that, I actually didn't pass the first time. I missed it by just 2 questions. So that was the main reason I actually failed the first time I took the exam. Second time I passed it. It was a lot more simple the second time I took it. I took the second exam about a week and a half apart. Now, after I failed the first time, I actually found a YouTube channel that specializes in helping people pass the NASM exam, and they help cover a lot of the topics that are actually needed to pass the exam. And they break down the content beautifully. They even have their own website, and if you join their Patreon, they help you study for the exam. They provide you with a study guide for the exam and a study guide for the book that you have and everything. They're named ShowUpFitness, and I'll actually put a link at the bottom for you guys in case you guys are interested in pursuing help from them to pass the exam as well. Now, NASM's form of studying and what they tell you to study for wasn't very helpful for me at all personally, which is why I joined the Patreon and I used their study guide, and their study guide was a lot more helpful. They recommend reading certain concepts, understanding these concepts, understanding certain vocabulary words, and they only recommend reading a few important chapters, and the rest of them you can kind of just skim through them. They're not necessary for the exam. So the way I was able to pass the exam was I actually used NASM's practice exam, the entire practice exam, and I did it about 10, 15 times times. I did it once a day, every day before I was gonna take the exam. The second thing I did was, again, I used that Patreon, and I used their study guide to study, and I made my own flashcards on Quizlet. I made 2 different sets of flashcards that I thought I would need to really understand the material before I took the test a second time. And I'll actually put a link to my Quizlet flashcards at the bottom as well, in case you're interested in using my flashcards. Of course, with Quizlet, I think you do have to get some sort of a subscription. However, if you get a free trial, you get 7 free days, and you can just use my flashcards for 7 days. Probably take screenshots of them or whatever. So the last thing I want to do is go up some of the main keys that you want to focus on during this exam. You definitely want to know all the distortions concepts. You want to understand those very well. You want to know all the underactive and overactive muscles. So let's say you do a squat and you're not performing that correctly, which causes a distortion. Which muscles are overactive and which muscles are underactive during that specific movement. You want to know dysfunctional movements in general. You want to know flexibility and strengthening exercises and how they apply to underactive or overactive muscles. You want to know the OPT model for sures, back and forth. You want to know which exercises and which stages apply specifically to whatever OPT you're currently on. There's 5 different levels of the OPT and how they apply to each one. There's different exercises and different stages within each level of the OPT model. You also want to know the assessments, and that's physical and performance assessments. You want to know when they apply, how they apply, and how to perform them. It's also important to note that during performance assessments, there's certain keys that you need to know for each one of them. To be honest, you can pass this exam within a month if you know how to study and prepare. And like I said, I'll put the link at the bottom for that YouTube channel, which really helped prepare you for the exam. And if you're interested in joining them, you can join them. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I'm not gonna make money off of this, but they were helpful. And if you find them helpful, you might wanna use them because their study guide actually works. It was very good. Like I said, those were the main things that I think you should focus on. And that's because a lot of what I found on the exam personally for me had to do a lot with the overactive and underactive muscles. And they're gonna find a bunch of different ways to make you confused because you're not going to understand what the question is, when in reality it's all broken down to overactive and underactive muscles and what you're supposed to do for that specific thing. But the way they word it is very tricky, not gonna lie. Make sure when you go over overactive and underactive muscles, you also realize that there's different words, that there's 3 different ways to word overactive muscles. For example, overactive muscles are always tight and shortened. Those are 2 words they're gonna use to confuse you when they're asking the question. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach me at my Instagram. I'll put those at the bottom as well. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions you have about the exam, but I don't mind sharing my experiences or helping you out with any questions that you have with regards to exam. Find me on social media. I'm there to help. That was my experience with the exam. I hope your experience with the exam is a lot easier than mine. And lastly, feel free to check out any of my other videos. I have a lot of fun videos and a lot of informative videos about fitness and health. I would definitely appreciate the support. So give this video a like, thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one.